Well, good morning. It's good to be back with Vestavia. If you will, turn me to Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs chapter 3. Solomon says, "My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to thy bones. Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with thy first fruits of all thine increase. So shall thy barns be full with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine." This week, if I can be personal with you for a moment, we had what I call a family meeting. Sometimes we just have a family meeting. You know, if you work in a corporate environment, or sometimes you just have to have a meeting to level set things and see where you are, right? And a project, we got project managers here. Sometimes if you're working a project, you got to stop and say, let's get together and just kind of see where we are. And now, a meeting with 3-year-old and a 6-year-old doesn't take very long. And a lot of times, my project manager in life, Carrie, my wife, who keeps me on track, says, hurry up, you're losing them. But I had to sit down this week and I said, you know, sometimes we just forget who we are, right, as Christians. Sometimes I forget who I am. I'm an elder in this church. I need to act like an elder. I'm a husband. I'm a father, and I'm a Christian. I need to be a Christian husband, a Christian father. And a lot of times it's good for us to just sit down and level set and say, who are we?
Amen.
And what are we doing? And sometimes we forget. We drift away, don't we? Yes. We go through the motions, and we may go to church every Sunday, and we may read our Bible every day. But we forget who we are and why we're doing this. We're not doing this. This is what I told them this week to talk to my children. We don't try to, this is what I told them, we don't try to say yes ma'am and no ma'am and yes sir and no sir and act nice in a restaurant so people say, well, you got nice kids. We want to acknowledge Christ in everything we do and shine on him, right? Amen. We want to let our light shine so that others around us may see our good works and glorify our Father, which is in everything we do. The project at work, cutting the grass, keeping the house clean, whatever it is, playing with you. Everything we do, there's a world around us that is watching us under the microscope, really. For us who name the name of Christ and want to and say we are Christians, which a Christian is just a disciple or a follower of Christ. We are publicly proclaiming as baptized believers here at Vestavia that we are learners and followers. We're learning and following from the Master, Jesus Christ. Amen. And so when people look at our lives, they should see a life that reflects Jesus Christ, right?
Amen.
And so Solomon is writing here in Proverbs 3, and he says, "My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments." We need to remember that we're not to forget the things that Christ has taught us, forget the things that God has taught us, but they would go past the heart knowledge and they would become intimately part of us in our heart, the thing that rules us, that moves us, that motivates us. You can only decide that you're going to do something with your own will for so long. You have to give your life over to this life of discipleship. And that's what I forget sometimes. You have to be all in on this life that we live as Christians, right?
Amen.
Or it's not gonna work for you. He says, "Let thine heart keep my commandments, for length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee." This is a temporal deliverance that we will have if we hide the Word of God in our heart and we hide the commandments that God has given us in our heart, and that leads to action on our part. It's a deliverance for all of us. He says, "Let not mercy and truth forsake thee." He's saying, don't forget mercy and truth. That's loving kindness and faithfulness, two hallmarks of a Christian life. He says, don't forget about those. He says, bind them about thy neck and write them upon the table of thine heart. So he says this is an outward and an inward thing. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. And he says, first of all, I want you to put them on the table of your heart so that it's not something you forget, that it's deeply a part of you. And he says, I want you to bind them about thy neck. I have a good friend. Some of y'all know, I know Brother Wayne and Tracy know him, and he's become one of my best friends. He's from Africa, and if it's like 60 degrees or less, he wears a scarf. Wayne's nodding. I remember when we were in the Bahamas on my honeymoon, and it was like 72 degrees. We went to Starbucks, and some local folks came in their sweaters and their jackets and said, it's freezing out here. But you know, when my buddy walks in a room, and he's got that, and I think he gets up and puts it on, and he takes it off when he goes to bed. All day long, he's got this scarf on. What's the first thing you notice? That scarf, right? He's got the scarf on. He says, let mercy and truth, don't let it forsake thee, but bind it about thy neck, that people that are looking to you will look to you and say, this man's a Christian, and this man is merciful to those that don't deserve mercy. This man has loving kindness. This is a faithful person. Well, I tell you, the world needs, the church needs. What's the best thing that the church could have is a faithful member, right? Amen. That's the best thing. You don't have to be the best Bible scholar. You don't have to give the most money to the church. But if you can be faithful, that's a good member, right? Amen. You don't have to have all these outward abilities. If you can just be faithful and show up, that's a good member of a church. That's a good Christian, is to be faithful. You can't be a Christian without being faithful. Amen. You can be a child of God, but you can't be a disciple without being faithful. And he says people should see that you're faithful. And it shouldn't be something that you do just for outward show. It's something that inwardly comes out in you so that people see that you are faithful. He says, so shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. That word good means, if you have a Bible that has the alternate translation, says good success. If you want to be really successful in life, it doesn't matter if you have the most money, the most cars, the most houses. It's if you're faithful and loving and gracious to people. Amen. That's what true success is. In verse 5,